Hi, this is Lisa Kelly, Notre Dame author and class of 1993, and you are watching the Two Irish Brothers show. Cheers and go Irish!
How's it going, everyone? I am ND Sean 45.
I'm Irish Benjamin 57.
And together, we are the Two Irish Brothers. Now, before we get to talking some Notre Dame football here, our very own Irish Benjamin 57 has some awesome news to share with everybody. Go ahead and tell everybody what that is, Ben. You've just been given a great opportunity.
Oh, yeah. I've kind of joined forces, if you will, with Shakedown the Thunder Sports. I'm now a contributor to that website. So it's pretty awesome. I'm honored to be a part of it. Taking the next step in my Notre Dame journey, if you will. This will be the third different Notre Dame publication, quote unquote, that I've worked for. So it's exciting. I'm super excited. So, yeah.
And normally Ben and I discuss the format of the show, but Ben, I decided to surprise you with that one because I really want people to know the awesome opportunity that George gave you, and I just want to tell you personally, congratulations on that, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Take that and freaking run with it. You have some writing ability, and if you guys want to see Ben's work, his writing work, check out our friend George Bashura, the one that we had on here a few weeks ago. Check out his website, Shakedown the Thunder Sports. Is it .com or .org?
I think it's .com.
Okay, shakedownthethundersports.com. I will make sure to get a correct link in the description box to this video. So Ben has one article under his belt already. It's pretty good. Make sure you guys go check it out and check out his future work as well. So again, Ben, take that opportunity and run with it, man. So, all right, with that said, let's get right into things. For starters, it has been announced that the NCAA will allow all NCAA pro football teams to start playing games on August 29th. That was the first big news this week. But obviously for us Notre Dame fans, the biggest news, and Ben and I were waiting until this became official to discuss it, and we actually thought we weren't going to make this video until next week, given those circumstances, but
everybody did.
Yeah, the ACC pulled a fast one on us, I think,
yeah,
and Notre Dame as well. But
on everybody.
Yeah, so it is official. For this upcoming football season, Notre Dame will be, for the first time in their program history, be a part of a conference. That conference is the Atlantic Coast Conference for this season only. So, first off, in regards to that, the Notre Dame doing a conference, all those people, they can shut the hell up now.
Right.
They can shut up, and you got your wish.
Right. Yep. The goal, the goal stays the same. The goal is to win a national title. And to me, that is our hurdle that we still haven't gotten over. But now it's a two-step process. Now we got to get to the ACC championship, and not only do we got to get to the ACC championship, we got to win the ACC championship to propel us into college football playoff, assuming we have one.
Yeah. There's always that talk, even still, about the possibility of not even having a season. I know we saw an article. Well, I just saw it before starting to film this. You saw it last night, but I guess the Big Ten now is still on the ropes about even playing football this year.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going to happen?
Right, and that's my biggest worry with playoffs. Like I'm not terribly worried about Notre Dame per se, because it seems like they have this huge plan with the ACC and it's official and it's nailed down and all that. But if you're having conferences that aren't even playing, how do you have a playoff? You can't. In the realm of fairness, then you can't say, oh well, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 had conference play and played, so we'll just let them play for the playoff and the national title. People will lose their minds.
Yeah.
So it's all up in the air, and that's my concern with that.
Well, and we'll discuss this more as the show goes along. But so far of the 5 Power 5 conferences, 3 of them have gone conference only schedule.
Yep.
Us joining the ACC, they've done a conference schedule +1 format, so we have one non-conference game. The Big 12, they still have to make a decision. But I think that's really going to kind of screw things up a little bit too, is, not having these non-conference games, so you can actually compare strength of schedule and all that.
Yeah, I think a lot of these non-conference teams, and people can say what they want about them, they use those non-conference games in the beginning of the season, and there's always a few that are either at the end because of rivalries or in the middle because they filler week. They use them as tune-ups. I mean, it's a lot of teams play a smaller team from a smaller conference out of conference, and that's their tune-up game to get them ready for the actual conference play.
Yeah.
I mean, most big-name schools do that. I mean, now we see some, big matchups like Auburn plays Clemson in the beginning of the year, or Alabama plays Florida State, 2 kind of big powerhouse teams going at it. But for the most part,
they're playing cupcakes to start the year.
Right.
Let's just say it what it is. Let's call a spade here.
So one of the things that I've kind of been seeing in the social media realm that's been kind of irritating me a little bit is people, especially Notre Dame Twitter, I should say, is going, well, Notre Dame has an easier schedule this year. I wouldn't go that far.
Really?
I do not think that Notre Dame has an easier schedule. I think there are teams that were on the same level as Southern Cal and Stanford that we switched, but we didn't just drop big-name teams off of our schedule. I mean, we still got to play Clemson.
Yes.
And that's going to be the biggest opponent we play all year. No offense to anybody else.
Yeah, it's just a fact, and we'll get to the schedule in a second here. But first off, let's just go step by step here. Let's just break down what exactly is happening here. So, of course, the ACC has added us on into their conference for the 2020 season. So the ACC now becomes a 15-team league. Normally, the league is split into 2 divisions, the Atlantic and the Coastal. There were rumors that if we joined, we were going to be in the Coastal, but the ACC decided to do away with divisions this year. So it's just 15 teams, that's it. No divisions, nothing. Just the all 15 teams, like we said, they play a 10-game conference schedule, plus 1 non-conference. The top 2 teams, according to conference record, will play in the ACC championship. The winner will either go to the college football playoff if their record is good enough, or they go to the Orange Bowl. And of course, since we're a conference member, we qualify for the ACC championship this year and the chance to get that Orange Bowl bid if the playoffs are not an option.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yep.
So now, with that said, let me bring it up here. Let's check out our opponents. Of course, the dates of these games have yet to be set, and I should have brought this up before we started filming.
Keeps it more raw.
Yes, you know me. I always say that. Keep it raw, people. Keep it raw. Okay. All right. Just. Oh, good. So, the website did update the schedule with the opponents. So breaking down the opponents here. Just we'll doing the 5-5. Of course, the non-conference opponent is to be determined. But the home games: Clemson, Duke, Florida State, Louisville, and Syracuse. The away games: Boston College, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, and Wake Forest. Now, Ben, you had started to talk about the schedule. I I didn't mean to cut you off, but please,
Oh.
please continue what you were saying with that.
Oh, and now you're gonna make me remember my thoughts.
Well, I can start a new one if you want. Let me just say this. Let me just since I screwed you up, let me just say this. Get something else started. Obviously, that's not a bad schedule. Those are some pretty decent teams that from that conference that they picked for us. But I think they kind of, I got to be honest, the ACC and the scheduling, they kind of dropped the ball a little bit. And why they didn't match us up with Miami, I will not know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So the article that I wrote on our blog, I only got one team wrong in my prediction, and that was Miami. Everybody else I predicted us to play, and I should say not really predicted, but recommended that we would play in the ACC if we went to an all ACC schedule. All of them were correct.
Well, I gotta say, I was pretty shocked that neither one of the Virginia schools ended up on our schedule.
Yeah, I do believe we played.
Yeah, we played them both last year.
I think that's why we didn't get them this year, was because we played both of them last year. So they were trying to keep repeats out.
Well, I do think in particular a Virginia Tech would help the schedule out a little more.
Yeah.
But I'm not complaining.
I think it is going to be harder than people think. I really do.
That's the point that you were going with that I before I cut you off.
To me, the harder teams, quote unquote, are in our home side of our schedule. Clemson is really good. Louisville's better than people give them credit for.
Yes.
Louisville gave us a lot of trouble in that opening game last year. And I feel like as a team as a whole, they are going to be a very, very hard team to beat this year. And, of course, Florida State. Florida State, I don't care what year it is, they are a tough team to play. I mean, they are. It's Florida State. So those three are like my big three on the schedule. But I feel like there are other teams still on the schedule that could give us a lot of trouble.
Well, here's the thing, Ben. Speaking of that, last night, the video that you and George did when he was introducing you to Shakedown the Thunder Sports to everyone, you made a very good point. If you guys haven't seen that video, go check it out at Shakedown the Thunder Sports, the YouTube page. George and Ben have a 25-30 minute discussion.
Yeah, it was just quick. Yeah, a small little thing. Yeah.
But you said something in that video that I 1,000% agree with. The Pitt Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't care what anybody says. People love to give us crap for this. They love to give us crap when we had that close call with them. Not this year, but the playoff run the year before. The Pitt Panthers, they have always been that team that gives us fits. They have always, and even my dad has. Even my dad has said this from even going back into the day. Whenever we would play them, they have always thrown everything but the kitchen sink at us. They always seem to bring their best game for us, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They are so stingy to play against. It's not even funny.
Yep. Yeah. And like I said, every team, and I will say this the other way, every big team has one team that really gives them trouble year in and year out. And it doesn't matter the record, it doesn't matter injuries, it doesn't matter. For whatever reason, that team plays them well. For Notre Dame, it's Pitt. For Alabama, it's Ole Miss. For Ohio State, it's Purdue. The list goes on and on and on and on. For Oklahoma, it's Missouri. When Missouri was still in the Big Ten, they always, or 12, I'm sorry, they always played Oklahoma tough. That's just how it is. Every big-name school has that team. And that's what worries me because it's in Pittsburgh. That is a game where we go into hostile environment and territory and go up against a team that historically has our number. Yeah,
they do. And I think it was 2011. I'll never forget that game. Pittsburgh kind of went, this is going to sound weird me saying this, but they kind of went Navy on us a little bit. They went to that offense of using up a lot of clock, getting 4 or 5 yards at a time, just nickel and diming us. Yeah. And the game was over before you knew it. And it was at a point where we could not make a mistake, or else we were going to lose that game. Thankfully, that didn't happen. And on the last drive of the game, Tommy Rees found Tyler Eifert like 8 or 9 times. He was like the only guy they threw to on that drive, and we ended up scoring the game-winning touchdown. But that's something that pisses me off big time. Is people have got to remember that just because a team does not have a number in front of their name that's 25 or higher, that doesn't mean that they're not a good football team.
No, oh my God, no. And it's football is a unique sport where anybody can beat anybody. And I know people are like, "That's not true." We've seen it. We have seen it happen. I'm not saying it happens every day, but it can happen. And it tends to happen to the big name schools because they're not ready. They're not. For whatever reason, the stars align and that team plays out of their mind and shocks the world.
Let's see. Was anybody expecting North Dakota State to beat Iowa back in 2016? Was anybody expecting Appalachian State to beat Michigan in 2007? I forget what year it was, maybe like 2013 or so, but I think it was James Madison. They came in and upset, who was it, South Carolina?
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, like, look at what happened with...
I could be wrong on that.
Utah laid a pounding on Alabama one season in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, Clemson got torched like 73-14 or whatever against West Virginia in the Orange Bowl. I mean, it happens. Teams get a chip on their shoulder and think that, the world ain't respecting them enough, and bam, they take care of business. So yeah, I mean, this schedule is going to be harder than people think. And I mean, the big one is Clemson.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
The other big one is we could potentially play Clemson twice.
Yeah, if the stars align.
So it's like you play Clemson once in the regular season and then once in postseason, and it's like, that's insane.
Well, and the thing is, another reason why this year is tougher is because this is truly a dogfight season now.
Yeah.
This is not, years past where you have a lot of pushovers. Everybody's going to be hungry because, like I've said in numerous videos already, this COVID-19 has screwed up so many things. It's playing with everybody's mind. These teams are hungry to get on that field, and they feel they have a lot to prove.
Oh yeah.
Because they're being restrained right now. They're ready to unleash themselves.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So don't tell me that just because you got certain teams that are normally, and let's face it, a lot of the conferences do have their bottom feeders. That is true. That's how it turns out to be anyway.
It's always going to.
But that doesn't mean that they're not going to be tough to play, that they're not going to come hungry. Of course they are.
Yeah.
Of course.
And we could potentially play 2 triple option teams this year. In Georgia Tech, and if we add Navy, which is being thrown around as our other game, our non-conference game, you got 2 triple option teams playing.
Well, actually, Georgia Tech doesn't run the triple option anymore.
Really?
Yep.
That shows how much I pay attention to them.
No, it's all right. I don't think you're the only one. I think a lot of people don't realize that. But no, they gave up the triple option. I'm not sure what they run now. I don't know if it's pro style, West Coast, whatever. But all I know is they're not running the triple option. I just happened to see that myself not too long ago.
Yeah, so interesting.
But also another thing too with Georgia Tech is that game got moved from the Mercedes-Benz Dome to Georgia Tech's home turf.
Yeah.
So
the hop's giving a jump from them though.
Yeah, of course. Of course, but I'm just saying. Obviously, that was done for COVID-19 reasons, of course. Now, it's funny you mentioned Navy, because this is something that I wanted to mention, too. For those of you guys who didn't see it, on my own channel, I did a quick little video last night talking about our one non-conference game. And I know everybody. Well, first off, I think we're all in agreement that we all want it to be the Navy midshipmen because of the history and the tradition and all that stuff that's involved there. It really wouldn't feel right not playing them. But I got to be honest with you. I'm not really sure if that's a for sure thing or not, because here. See, here's the thing. With that non-conference game, and Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, because you might know this, but I've read a couple different things. Is it, with the non-conference game, is the rule it has to be played in the ACC member's home state, or just any state where there's an ACC member?
I think, well, let's find this out real quick. I do believe it is that it has to be played at the ACC team's stadium. So, like, if Notre Dame were to add anybody else on their non-conference, then it is a situation where they have to play in Notre Dame.
So basically it is a home game for Notre Dame.
Yes.
That's all that rule is saying.
Let's see. Okay.
Because I saw one report where it said the non-conference game had to be played in just a state where there's an ACC school, then I saw another one that said no, it had to be played in the state of that particular ACC school.
According to the ACC, this is from the ACC.com. All non-conference game opponents selected by the respective school must be played in the home state of the ACC institution, and all non-conference opponents must meet the medical protocol requirements as agreed on by the ACC.
Okay, so that means that this non-conference game, would just have to be played in Notre Dame's case in Indiana, but not necessarily Notre Dame Stadium.
Yeah, so they could play it in Indianapolis, Terre Haute, wherever. Yeah.
Which obviously, I mean, which that brings me to my next point, is this is where it gets tricky on if that game is going to be Navy or not, for a couple reasons. One, we still don't know for sure what all the Group of Five conferences are going to do because they're waiting on the Power Five, and we still have to wait for the Big 12 to make their final decision on what they're going to do.
Yep.
Because they're the only ones left standing that have to make a decision yet.
Yeah, them and the Big Ten haven't made official decisions, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. And yes, that according to what I read, the Big Ten could potentially not even have a season. So that eliminates Purdue, friggin' Northwestern, Indiana, Michigan State. So the guys that we normally play, every few years. So there's that. And then if the Big 12 says no, then that eliminates anybody in the Big 12 that we could play. So
well, regardless, all those teams are out anyway because they're all going conference only. They're not adding any non-conference.
Well, we would have to find a team that's not in the Power Five that said, "Okay, we'll come and play you."
So that's my point. Is we know for a fact that, I mean, obviously Arkansas is out of the question now because the SEC, they made it official and they're playing a 10-game conference slate only.
And Alabama.
What?
And Alabama.
Yes. I remember the rumors of that being a possibility to start the season. But basically the Big 12 is the only one left. But people got to remember too, Navy, they're now a part of the American Athletic Conference. And what I'm getting at is with the group of five still needing to make a decision yet. What if the American Conference goes schedule only, or goes conference schedule only?
Right.
Well,
there goes that.
There goes Navy. We don't know, neither Navy or Notre Dame have a choice in that case. And go
ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, and right now, the only ones that are left on our home slate from all this mess and the reshuffling is Western Michigan. Yep. So that's what I said in my video last night, that I think that one non-conference game is going to be either Navy, which, like I said, I think we all want it to be Navy because of the history, or it's going to be Western Michigan, I think. But, of course, it's hard to tell at this point because we don't know what the Group of Five conferences are going to do. And the other point is this. with Navy. Let's say the group of 5 decides they're gonna either play a full schedule or they're gonna have a +1 format like what the ACC is doing. Let's say that happens. And honestly, I think they're going to do something like that because the group of 5, their matchups against these Power 5 opponents, those are their money games. That's what makes them a lot of their money. So I'd like to think that they would keep that in mind when they're making their decision.
Yep.
But, so let's say they make that decision. Now it comes down to Navy's thought process here. Would they want to sacrifice a home game at Annapolis to play in South Bend back-to-back years?
Right.
Because this game is scheduled to be game was scheduled to be in Annapolis, but we now know that can't happen.
Right. Yeah, everything is so. I don't know the right word. I guess like wishy-washy because we just don't know. I mean, we don't know what everybody else is doing yet. So the good thing is we know what the ACC is doing, and Notre Dame has joined the ACC, quote unquote. So we're set there. But who's our final opponent? We got one question mark: is who's that final guy that we're going to play?
Yeah.
Who knows? So. Like you said, I hope it's Navy. I want it to be Navy. And then also, like you said, they're big money makers. These teams rely on these other big name teams, the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the Ohio States, the Michigans, what have you, to make their money. There was a team, I can't remember the name, but they signed a deal like to play this year, and they will get the highest payout that's ever been paid out to an opponent.
Yeah.
$105 million.
And that's big. That is, I mean, they have people. That is huge for a school's athletic department.
That's insane to play one game. So.
And probably get their butts kicked.
They'll get their butts handed to them. But
money talks.
Money talks, and that's where it is. So, and right now, they're hurting even worse because of the COVID situation. Yeah. It's not a situation where they're like, well, if we don't get this deal done, it's not a big deal. It's we have to get this deal done because if we don't, we're screwed. We're done. We're out of luck. So it'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting. But
and honestly, what I was going to say, honestly, Ben, I know you saw the video, and by the way, thank you for letting me post that on our Twitter page and all that. But I want to get your opinion. What honestly do you see happening? I mean, and I include the Big 12 situation with that too. What do you see happening from this point forward?
I think there's now a lot of pressure on the Big 12 to make a decision. You have the ACC that's made a decision, the SEC that's made a decision, and the Pac-12 that's made a decision. And if we're going by playoffs, all of the Power 5 conferences have been represented in the playoffs thus far. We've seen a Pac-12 team, we've seen a Big 12 team, we've seen a Big 10 team, and we've seen an ACC team and an SEC team. So everybody's been represented at least once.
Well, I meant with our final opponent, with our non-conference opponent.
Final opponent.
Yeah, not the overall picture. I meant with just our. Because I was like, what's Ben talking about here? But that's my fault. I should have specified. I meant like, what do you see the process happening with our non-conference opponent, and start with the Big 12. What do you see the Big 12 doing, and how do you see that going into the group of 5 after that? And who do you think our opponent will be?
So
I gave my opinion on the video last night.
I see that it's Navy. I really do. I think they're going to be in talks with their conference and say, hey, look, we need a +1. And our +1 needs to be that we play Notre Dame. Whether it's played in South Bend or Indianapolis or wherever, I think it'll be Navy. Just because of the history and because of all that. And, I mean, those guys look forward to this game. And vice versa. Our guys look forward to that game. So, for a sense of normalcy, that's what I think. Now,
And what can you
happen? Then I see Western Michigan, because Western Michigan needs the money way more than the Naval Academy.
Yeah, the Naval Academy is the United States government.
So, I mean, there's that. But yeah, that's what I think will happen.
So what could you see the Big 12 conference at this point, as well as the Group of 5 conferences? What could you see them doing? What do you think will happen with them?
All conference. It'll either be all conference and they don't play a +1, or it's all conference and +1.
Now here's the thing. What I couldn't believe, since I brought up the Big 12, and I know this isn't going to happen because there's been a couple of reports confirming it, but they were looking to grab Brigham Young from the independent pool and bring them in so they can play a 10-game schedule.
Right.
But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Could you see them trying to grab somebody else for this season, out of the independent pool or elsewhere?
Yeah, I could see them grabbing New Mexico.
Yeah, it's either is it New Mexico or New Mexico State that's an independent right now?
I think I'm pretty sure it's New Mexico, because New Mexico is the Lobos, and then New Mexico State's the Aggies. So yeah, and we played New Mexico, and that was the Lobos, and they were independent. So yeah, I think that's correct. It's them.
Well, actually, I'll pull it up right now.
It's them, us, Liberty, Brigham Young, and then
it's Army. Actually, I got it right here. It's Massachusetts, UConn, us, New Mexico State, Liberty.
Oh, State.
Yep. Yeah, it's New Mexico State. Liberty, Brigham Young, and then the Army.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean that, which I cannot believe that, which I don't know who's not wanting to do it, if it's Brigham Young or if it's the Big 12, but you think that just for this particular season, like us with the ACC, that would be a match made in heaven. Because Brigham Young, I mean, it's out west, it's close enough to them regionally. I mean, shoot, I can't take credit for this, but do you know the user on YouTube who calls himself Oni Kuno, a big Oklahoma fan?
I've heard the name.
Okay, well, he put out a video today, and he made a very good point on something when he was talking about this. He said that West Virginia actually presents more of a problem than Brigham Young does, because West Virginia, they're all the way out on the East Coast, and so it's not even closely regional. But so anyway, you would think that Brigham Young for this season would be a match made in heaven and solve a lot of problems.
Yeah. I wonder what their situation is. I wonder if it's that they don't want to share revenue or whatever with the actual conference as opposed to teams that they play. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not privy to that information, so I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, so what? You don't have a season then because you can't meet in the middle and compromise and all that? Because I mean, Notre Dame clearly met in the middle and compromised.
Yeah, and that says a lot. We make $15 million a year from the NBC contract, and if we're willing to share some of that with the 14 other schools in the ACC, then that just says a lot.
Basically $1 million to everybody.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean,
and I think we're getting some of their revenue too. I think we're all putting it in one pot.
Right.
I could be wrong about that, but
right now is the time to do stuff like that because of everything that's going on. The whole COVID situation is making money thinner among these schools and stuff. So it's not going as far because it's not coming in. I mean, you don't have X, Y, and Z. I mean, we didn't have the NCAA tournament. I mean, think of how many schools make a bunch of money off the NCAA tournament.
Well, think of what the casinos and the gambling companies make off of the NCAA basketball tournament.
Right. So and then the other thing that a lot of people forget, and I actually brought this up to my wife the other night, because she's not a sports person. She doesn't get this whole realm that we're in. Brought it up to her. I'm like, it really, really irritates me that people go, sports don't matter. And I don't go the typical route. I go this route. Sports generate so much revenue for other things than just the actual teams themselves. Hotels, bars, restaurants, grocery stores are all affected by sports. If it gives you any indication of how it is, when I still worked at my old job, I worked retail. I worked, I'll give them a plug, I worked at Deerberg's in Missouri, oldest grocery store chain in the state of Missouri. When Mizzou was really, really good, okay, and they were going for a Big 12 championship and all that, our sales doubled on Saturdays because of Mizzou being so good. Because everybody wanted to buy stuff to go to the game and to do all that. Once Mizzou went back down to normal and they became not so good anymore, our sales dipped. Yeah. And that's Mizzou. That's not Alabama. That's not Clemson. That's not Oklahoma. That's not Notre Dame. And on the other side, that's not the LA Dodgers. That's not the Chicago Cubs. That's not whoever. So it really pisses me off when people go, well, sports don't really matter and it's not a big deal. Sports generate a lot. And then job-wise, think of all the people that work at those stadiums that don't have a job now because things aren't going on. And we've seen teams do that. We've seen professional sports teams say, we're not paying our employees. We can't do it, which is crap. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying like, let's open everything back up and let's create, all that. I'm not saying that. But the argument, the point to play devil's advocate, think of it that way. Yes.
And it's true. When you are in a campus town on game day or anything, especially when it's a program that's really, really good, any restaurant, any bar, any place you go to, it is wall to wall, shoulder to shoulder. Yep. I mean, it's packed. Yep. I mean, I just remember we were at a game up in South Bend one year, and we had to stop at the grocery store just to get some ice because we forgot to grab some. The grocery store is packed. Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's nuts. People don't realize it. And look, to make a point to that, yes, it is just a game. It is just a bunch of guys with the ball running it and throwing it. Is that gonna stop the world? No, the world's gonna keep on turning regardless of what happens, who wins and who loses. But the bottom line is, it's something that, in addition to what you said, it's something that provides people with an escape from all the other. And I'm not going to go into any specifics, but it gives people an escape from all the other crap that's going on in the world that they get sick and tired of. Right. Well, their own personal problems and all that too. I mean, one of the interesting articles I read was the whole situation where, like, baseball during the Great Depression, it gave people an escape from the harsh reality that they were in. Yeah. And right now, according to reports, suicide, depression, anxiety are all up a ton because of this COVID situation. So these things can give people an out and an escape from what's really going on. Because it's hard. I mean, it's hard for all of us. So yeah. Yeah, I know. I just, the sooner they find a vaccine or some kind of cure or whatever, the better. Yeah. Yeah. But going back to the topic at hand. Yes. Yes. The ACC schedule with Notre Dame. I won't say a ton because I know we're going to be previewing games and all that and giving predictions and all that. But doesn't hurt to give a season preview. My big three worries are, and people are going to be like, North Carolina, Pitt, and Louisville are my big three, sleeper upset alert games. Clemson, of course. Yeah, that's just a given. Clemson, duh. I mean, Florida State, you got to be worried about that. Duh. I get it. But Pittsburgh, like we talked about earlier, always plays us well historically. North Carolina, and I brought this up on George's show last night too, people don't realize what's going on in Chapel Hill. Okay? A lot of people that are focused on Alabama and Ohio State and Clemson and all that don't really understand what's going on. Mac Brown
is flipping recruits left, right, and center.
He's bringing in some talent there.
To a basketball school in a basketball-crazed state that is North Carolina. They're better than people are going to give them credit for. And the last time that we played them, they gave us trouble. Big time.
Yeah, they did.
And not only do you have that, but now you have two big-name coaches that are going against each other. You got Mac Brown going against Brian Kelly.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, that says a lot. I mean, and you could even say something similar at Notre Dame. I mean, take basketball, for example, here. And both men and women's. But I'm just going to stick with the men because the men were the ones who had a drought for quite a while. Yeah. Muffet McGraw, when she was here, she always kept the women's team pretty damn good and pretty consistent. Yeah. But Notre Dame basketball was huge when Digger Phelps was here. We all know that. Huge, right. Extremely huge. But then, after he left, it took quite a dip there. It really did. And then, what was his name? Matt Doherty, I think. Yeah. He came in for 1 year, showed some promise. Then after a year, he left for, ironically, North Carolina.
Yeah. Well.
But then Mike Bray comes in, takes him a few years to get going, but he turns the basketball program around. And now then several years down the road, 20 years later, give or take, however long he's been there for, he's got Notre Dame in a position where they can actually be competing for the tournament. Had them in a spot where they were competing for Final Fours. So what I'm getting at is it became the same thing here. Notre Dame, historically a football school, is now creeping into the basketball ranks, being known for being able to grab a few top basketball guys. Yeah. So that's the point that I was getting at. I was just trying to compare and contrast the two.
Yeah, and that's my point with the Tar Heels. People can be like, "Oh, it's another bottom feeder team." I wouldn't go that route, man. Like, they could potentially beat us. They could, and then jump into Louisville. I mean, Louisville gave us trouble last year, and we said that earlier in this video. They've had another year to improve, and if you look at who they're bringing back, they're bringing a lot of their core guys back. So it's guys that know the situation, that have been here. They played Notre Dame. They know what they're up against. They know the stakes,
And Scott Scatterfield, he's no slouch as a coach.
No. Look what he did at Appalachian State.
Yes.
He got Appalachian State to where they are now in Division I, at the highest rank you can be at.
Yeah, the FBS level.
That culture, So they worry me. They really do. And those are the games that you have to be more worried about than Clemson, because you know what you're going up against with Clemson. You don't know what you're going up against with North Carolina and Louisville and even Pittsburgh.
Because those guys are like, okay, all right, you want to overlook us for Clemson? We'll show you.
Yeah. And the other kind of one that makes me a little leery, which is whatever, Syracuse. I'm sorry, Syracuse. I mean, the last time we played them, we took care of business. And pretty convincingly. But what's going on in Syracuse is nothing to be slouching at either. So, people can say, oh, Notre Dame's got an easy schedule. And it's not as easy as you think. And the road to that championship is going to be a hard one.
And Dino Babbers, he knows how to bring his guys together. There was another friend of mine off YouTube. He goes by the screen name Syracuse and Buffalo Sports, which actually, since we play Syracuse, him and I, when that game happens, we're actually going to do a live stream of both of us watching that game.
That's interesting.
And do like a reaction thing.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be more than welcome to join us. I'm sure he wouldn't care.
Yeah.
But
on at that point in time, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
These guys, I get that they're not some of these other big name teams. I get it, and justifiably so. But at the same time, I'm sorry, the team that normally beats Alabama is not number one. or number 2. The team that beats Alabama in the middle of their season is a team that they didn't expect to beat them. So
that's usually the case with all those situations.
So it happens more than I think people are willing to admit. It happens to Ohio State. It's happened to Michigan. It's happened to Alabama. It's happened to us. It's happened to Clemson. So I mean,
the bottom line is it's going to be a dogfight in this conference, especially for the kind of year that it is. And also, another game to keep an eye on. I'm not necessarily saying they're going to be a threat, but still you want to look out for them. But not just for on-the-field reasons, but Boston College.
Oh, yes.
Now, we know our history with the Boston College Eagles. I mean, they've screwed up championship seasons, 93 and 2002. This wasn't... 2004, yes, I say that. No, it wasn't a national title BCS run that year, but they screwed up our chances at going to a better bowl game than what we got that year. But what makes this year even more interesting, and I know you saw the news.
Mm-hmm, and I talked about it.
Phil Dracovic, he's, well, let's just say this. Shots have been fired.
Oh, yes. He posted some stuff on Instagram and
Twitter.
He's yep.
And for those of you who haven't seen it yet, Phil Dracovic, we all of us Irish fans know who he is. He was a top quarterback recruit. He basically was left on the bench because Ian Book turned out to be a very pleasant surprise.
Yep.
And no disrespect to Phil, I'm not gonna start dogging Phil just because of what's going on. I mean, obviously he's a young kid who is pissed off, and I understand that.
Yeah.
But I can understand him not wanting to sit for another year when it was supposed to be his time. But
Yeah.
like I said, we didn't know that Ian Book was going to do what he's been doing.
You don't know. You don't know. It happens.
So him transferring, I understand. But the situation is this: he just posted a picture on Twitter and on Instagram of him in a Boston College Eagles uniform in a jail cell with Brian Kelly as the quote prison guard or whatever.
Yep.
And basically, the reason for that is, I don't know the whole story, but I guess his transfer papers haven't gone through yet or something.
Yeah.
And they're thinking that Brian Kelly's responsible for that.
And that myth has been debunked. It's been said that Notre Dame has said, we don't care if he starts or not this year. It doesn't affect us any. So there's that. But yeah, and my excitement is if he gets his eligibility, you can bet that he's going to be playing against Notre Dame. And then we get a lot of questions answered. I mean, we're going to get questions answered before that game unless it's like the first game of the season against Boston College. Because all of our dates haven't been set yet, so we don't know. But
Uh-oh.
was he really good for this promised land guy? Was he going to be the guy that was supposed to take us to the next, level like everybody was saying?
Go back to the start of that because you froze up there for a split second.
The questions that are going to be answered are, if he gets his eligibility, is, was he going to be that guy? Was he going to be the guy that takes us to the promised land? Because that's what we heard. That's what the hype was. He was a very hyped up recruit, and I'm guilty of it. I hyped him up. I was excited. I saw his highlights. I made a highlight video of him. I get it. But, so we get to play against him, and then it's vice versa. It gives him the opportunity to say, you didn't give me the chance. Here's what you missed out on. And how many guys get to do that? How many guys transfer out of their school, go to a different one, and then get to play against the school that they transferred out of?
It doesn't happen often.
So that chip on the shoulder is going to be even bigger for Phil Dracovic if he gets that eligibility, and then they play us.
And like I said, I wish no ill will towards the kid whatsoever. I can understand him being pissed off, but I think he's mad at the wrong person.
And I think it's partially he's mad at the NCAA, and we're Notre Dame fans. We get that whole situation being irritated with the NCAA. We get it.
And
We can give you lots of examples of stuff, but
and this is where it shows it's tough being a coach too, because you have this kid that's a top prospect, you're grooming him up, but you have this pleasant surprise come along, and you got to go with who's proven. I'm sorry, that's no disrespect with Phil, but Ian was already proven. He was already in the groove. He already had that chemistry built with everybody. So you're going to go with what's already established.
Well, him coming in during that LSU game, in the bowl game, showed us, this is a guy that can perform, and I mean, people will say this or that about Ian Book, and I've heard the criticisms and all that, but this is a guy that is, like you said, proven. He's proved it on the field. So when he's at his A game, here's what he is. We don't have that slice of cake with Djokovic. We don't have the, when he's at his A game, here's what we got. We don't have any example. So
we only saw
go with what you know. You go with the hot hand. You go with the guy that gives you the quote unquote best chance to win a game.
Yeah.
And it's Book right now.
And the thing is, when we did see Phil on the field, I mean, he didn't look bad, but it just they were in situations where it wasn't really big of a situation to
Right.
The pressure was way off.
Right. When
There
you're
was
up,
no pressure.
30 points, it's not a big deal. You make a mistake and it's not going to kill the game.
And he didn't really make that many mistakes from the appearances that he did make with us, but again, that doesn't say a whole lot. But it did show that the kid does have some potential to be something.
Right. Yep.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And like you said, I don't wish him any ill will. I want to see him do well. I want to see these guys do well. It's not only is it the right thing, but it's fun. I mean, it's fun to see these guys do awesome. I mean, even though it's not our team, I love college football, period. It's not just I love Notre Dame. I love Notre Dame above all else, yes. But, seeing what Joe Burrow did at LSU last year was incredible.
Yes, I agree.
Well,
I agree with that. That was amazing.
Seeing what Tim Tebow did at Florida was incredible. Seeing what, and I hate to say it, seeing Reggie Bush at USC was incredible. I mean, he was electric. So just because you don't play for my team doesn't mean I want you to do awful. I hate that. I hate people that, I hope he gets injured. I hate all that.
That's classless.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting,
Yeah.
and you can't tell me, going back to the Boston College situation, you can't tell me that those guys wouldn't want to even play even harder for Djokovic, because now he's one of them. Loyalties change. And that's the other thing that I brought up on George's show. Not everybody fits every scheme and program. It's just how it is. And it's like that across sports. I hate the what ifs. I hate when people go, especially like the biggest one with my teams, with the Dolphins. Well, what if we'd gotten Drew Brees? Would we even be in this position? Okay, what if we had? And what if he'd been a dud? I mean, there are so many times where I see a big-name player go to a different team and suck, and vice versa. Some little player that signs a different contract with a new team all of a sudden becomes, Wayne Gretzky. I mean, it happens.
You want to hear a major example of that, of what you're talking about? So, this involves the Chicago Bears. Maybe I've told the story on here. I don't know. I can't remember. But if I haven't, I'm doing it now. So, the Chicago Bears, 1979. Walter Payton at the running back spot. He is going strong. He is entering his prime years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, 1979 comes along. The NFL draft. First round. No, actually, take that back. I think it was the third round. But it's the Chicago Bears' turn. They get ready to make their selection. They write their selection down on the draft card, but they change their mind. They scratch that name off and they replace it with the name of somebody else. I forget who it was, but it was a running back. I know that, and they decide to pick a running back to add some depth to Walter Payton.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess whose name they scratched off the card? Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Joe Montana is who they were going to pick. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Keep in mind who the Bears head coach was at that time. It was Neil Armstrong. And no, not the astronaut people. So save the smart-ass comments. It was Neil Armstrong. But just regardless of who the coach was at that point in time, the Bears were not really passing the ball a whole lot.
Right.
Yeah, they based it all around Walter Payton and the running game. So this is just something to think about. Let's say they stuck with their pick and picked Joe Montana. Would Joe Montana have been the Joe Montana that we know now had he got picked by the Bears? And because do you really think they would have? And I'm not so sure about this, but do you think they would have, if they picked Montana, would they have based the offense around him?
No, not with Walter Payton. No.
So yeah, I mean, now granted, I've had other friends tell me that I think they would have. I think they would have let Joe throw the ball more. I think he could have still been the Joe Montana we know if he was a Bear. It's possible. I mean, yeah, Go ahead. What'd you say?
You just don't know.
Yeah, there's no way to know. But my gut instinct tells me that I really don't think they would have. I don't think Neil Armstrong would have changed his offense just because he had Joe Montana.
No.
Because, I mean, even when they got Jim McMahon in '82, I mean, it took Jim McMahon fighting with Mike Ditka, who was going the same route, run. It took him going over Ditka's head to get some changes made.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you really just do not know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's my point. It's, people get all, and I brought this up multiple times, the whole recruiting aspect. Oh, this guy, or oh, that guy, or, I mean, it doesn't mean everything. Is it a step in the right direction? Of course. I mean, is it good to have a 5-star recruit at your program? Yeah, of course. But is it the end of the world that you miss out on a guy? No. Or is it the end of the world that a guy transfers out? No.
No, it's not. You can find other guys to step in and do their thing.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
Yep.
So, on that note, Ben, I think we have covered everything that needs to be covered. I mean, obviously, we can't go too much further because there's still some big decisions that have to be made yet with the Big 12 and the Group of 5. So we won't know who our non-conference opponent is going to be for sure yet until those decisions are made. God hoping it's Navy.
Yep, so do I.
But yeah, so we just need to wait on the Big 12 and the Group of 5. Other than that, this is a big groundbreaking year for Notre Dame, and it's not. And the final thought that I have is, aside from finally being able to shut up the conference obsessed douchebags who are always like, Notre Dame, just join a conference, blah 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 blah. Well, they got their wish, but this is also unique because how often do you get to see a team have a trial run with a conference?
Yep.
Which this
Fighting Irish.
Now I want to keep our independence.
So do I.
But I can't help a little bit be intrigued by this to see how they'll do, because we hear it from the haters all the time. Oh, if you guys were in a conference, you'd get destroyed every single year. You'd be a bottom feeder. That's why you're independent, because you can't hack it. Well, we got our chance to do that. We'll find out. And
to be answered.
And yeah, so this is going to be intriguing, and but just for the fact that it means having a season and having a decent schedule, I'm all for it in that case.
Right. I just want football, man.
Yeah, and if this, I don't really want to go speculate too far past this upcoming season, but if this means, going forward and joining the ACC, myself personally, I don't think Notre Dame's going to want to split their NBC revenue after this year.
Right.
So I doubt it will happen. But it's going to be fun to see us try a conference out once.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So, but yeah, anything else you have to add, Ben? Any other thoughts that you have on your mind?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, on that note, people, just give you guys a quick little announcement. We have another episode coming out this Tuesday that we're going to be filming. And without giving too much away, let's just say the show is going to get a little orange coming this Tuesday. So you guys are going to want to be on the lookout for that. It's going to be really awesome. I'm sure most of you probably heard the news already, but I'm just going to leave you guessing anyway. I don't care.
Yeah.
That's how Ben and I roll. We're going to leave you guessing even if you already know.
Yep.
So yeah, with that said, guys, that's all we have for you in this episode. We hope you enjoyed it as usual. And on that note, I am ND Sean 45.
I'm Irishman 7.
We are the Two Irish Brothers, and as always, guys, God bless and go Irish!
Go Irish.